Howdy gamers and happy holidays! I'm honestly not too sure what I want to do today. I've had a busy year with all the haunted garage sales, and also, I might just relax and do a reading of the Metal Gear Solid 2 instruction manual. I mean, after all, I haven't got to do that this year, so... Avoid damages to your television. That part never gets old. Ooh, this part's a classic. Oh god. I don't know that sound anywhere. That's the sound of a ghost who's trying to tell me about the true meaning of Christmas. I can't say that I'm too surprised. You see, this past month I've just been a real jerk to orphans. I mean, I figured there would be no consequences. What were they gonna do? Tell their parents? But luckily, I did set up a distraction in case something like this happened. That cardboard cutout has saved me from so many social gatherings, so let's just hope it works on ghosts too. Frick.
I've been standing here for 3 hours.
So, does that mean you heard me say all that stuff about how I don't believe in Christmas and how girls should have sex with me because I'm actually a really nice person?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you don't have to lecture me or anything. I'm sure you're a busy ghost who has better things to do anyways.
Actually, yeah, I've got a ghost party to go to. You'll never guess who's going to be there. I'll give you a hint. It's Jesus f***ing Christ. And also Margaret Thatcher, which is... like, that's weird, right?
I'll be honest, I have no idea what a Margaret Thatcher is, but that Jesus party is pretty cool. Are you, like, celebrating his birthday or something?
Nah, it's just some Christmas thing.
Oh, cool. Who else is gonna be there?
Well, let me think. There's gonna be the dog from Snow Buddies. The other dog from Snow Buddies. A lot of the dogs from Snow Buddies, actually. Hey, wait a second. You're just trying to fucking stall me.
Listen, how many other people do you have to talk to tonight?
Like 3 other people, not including you.
Okay, so how about you just give me a quick summary of whatever I need to tell them so that way they can appreciate the true meaning of Christmas or whatever, and then I can do that and you can do your ghost party.
Alright, fine, but don't f*** it up or I'll lose my ghost license.
What the frick is a ghost license? I should have like 15 cents by now. Okay, let's see. The first person, I'm supposed to talk to them about their past mistakes. And it says right here, they're a Smash Bros. Player. Oh god.
Hold on 1 second. I think I'm getting a phone call. Join call?
Howdy.
Who are you?
Well, my name is Eric. My favorite color is blue. And one fun fact about me is that I am deathly afraid of hurdles.
That must be a hard fear to get over.
You have no idea.
Anyways, why are you calling me on Christmas Eve? I'm kind of busy right now.
Well, I'm the ghost of Christmas.
Wait, you don't look like a ghost.
Oh shoot, you're right, my bad.
Okay, that's much better.
And it says right here that I'm supposed to talk to you about that time you cheated in Mario Party when you were 9, but I'll be honest with you that Ghost was kind of a jerk, so how about instead I cut you a bit of slack and instead I just talk about multiplayer gaming before 9/11?
You know, I'm kind of busy right now. How about another time?
Multiplayer gaming was such a big part of the early days of gaming. I mean, the NES didn't come with 2 controller slots just so you could play single player games. Okay, it kinda did, but there's still so many multiplayer games for it. And even further back than the NES, we had the Atari 2600 with 2 controller ports. Frick it, the first home console, the Magnavox Odyssey, had 2 controller ports. Even further back than home consoles though, we had the first video game ever, Pong, which, get this, was a 2-player game. It's weird to think about it, but multiplayer games have been around as long as gaming has, because yeah, it's cool to watch someone else play a game, but when you can play with them and absolutely destroy their self-esteem at the same time, well, that's something special. A lot of the first multiplayer games, though, weren't exactly what you think of when you hear the term multiplayer games. They're about as multiplayer as driving. I mean, sure, you can kinda drive with 2 people, one working the steering wheel and one the gas, but that right there is the reason why I'm not allowed back at the local golf course anymore. At first, most of these 2-player games in arcades had one person go, and then once they lost a life, the next person would go. Think Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Dig Dug, Space Invader, and more. Of course, that was just the arcade. What about at home, you're probably asking, and multiplayer wise, you would have one person go, and then once they lost a life, the next person would go. Think Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Dig Dug, Space Invaders, and also Mario. You see, the NES had more than just poorly done ports of arcade games, they also had whatever this is supposed to be. Even some of Nintendo's own first-party games that were multiplayer were more multiplayer with a question mark after it than anything. These were more of the wait for your friend to be done playing and then go type games. You had games like Mario 2, Mario 3, and Wrecking Crew. Overall though, most of the multiplayer games on the NES were actual multiplayer experiences where you and a friend could play through a game together and have a good time. Well, maybe not a good time since it's an NES game, but you still had some classic multiplayer experiences like Wario's Woods, Dr. Mario, Contra, Ice Climbers, Balloon Fight, River City Ransom, and Scat. These weren't necessarily games you would break out at a party, but I mean a funeral, sure. Also, the arcade still had some actual multiplayer games. I mean, there's the whole line of Nintendo vs. arcade games where Nintendo ported their home console games into the arcade for some multiplayer fun. You had Ice Climber versus, Dr. Mario versus, Balloon Fight versus. No Scat versus though, so kinda pointless. Also, there were still more of the Pac-Man type of arcade games, don't get me wrong, but once the 90s came around, we started to enter a new era of multiplayer gaming. No more were we waiting for our friends to go and then taking our turn. We now had games like Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country where we could finally play Frick. Yeah, even though we were playing with power, we still had a few games that didn't allow for actual multiplayer, but this is when multiplayer games were really starting to start. First off, we had Super Mario Kart, which was pretty much made to be 2 players because, I mean, have you seen the game in single player? With multiplayer though, you could race against your friends or even your enemies since, I mean, it is Super Mario Kart. You probably don't want to be playing this on a first date. In addition to that though, we also had Kirby Superstar, which allowed for some co-op platforming, and another Kirby game on the system, Kirby's Dream Course, was a mini golf game for the system, and yeah, it was also multiplayer. We had another Contra game on the system where, again, the whole game could be played in co-op. And did I mention Street Fighter 2? One of the best fighting games of all time was on here, and it's still played in tournaments today. Also, Super Bomberman's multiplayer was pretty nice. Meanwhile, arcades at the time also got more multiplayer experiences, but it was also the 90s, so arcades weren't as cool anymore. I mean, come on, would you rather play Phalanx or the Simpsons arcade game? And if you answered anything but Phalanx, I don't think we can be friends. Back to home consoles though, because, well, I mean, it's obvious. Also, if the SNES is regarded as when local multiplayer was really starting to start, then the N64 was the peak of local multiplayer. I mean, yeah, there was also the PS1 with Crash Team Racing, Tekken 3, and Gran Turismo, but it also had Bubsy 3D, so I refuse to acknowledge that this console exists. And I would mention the Sega Saturn, but if you had a Sega Saturn, did you really have any friends to do multiplayer with? Also, well, like I said, the Bubsy machine did have a few multiplayer games. Let's be honest, it was nothing compared to the N64. Almost every game for that system had a multiplayer option. No, not that one. Not that one either. Oh, this one is multiplayer. We just need to find out what an L02401 is. Okay, so maybe not every game on the N64 is multiplayer, but a lot of games were. You had sequels though, like Mario Kart 64, which allowed up to 4 players, double the amount on the SNES. There was also Mario Tennis, which was a sequel to The Plague, which allowed for up to 4 players again, and added so many modes to play with friends. And also Bomberman 64's multiplayer was pretty nice. There were plenty of original multiplayer games too though, like International Superstar Soccer 98, and also GoldenEye 007, but I'll let you choose which one is more iconic. I mean, one revolutionized multiplayer gaming and the other was just some licensed movie game. Seriously though, GoldenEye 007 was iconic, and it set the standards for multiplayer gaming with 4-player co-op, multiple game modes that are now standard, and a whole lot of guns and maps. It even had a spiritual successor with Perfect Dark with another amazing multiplayer mode. There was even a Mario Golf game, and F-Zero was on the N64 and had amazing multiplayer. F-Zero and Mario Kart weren't even the only popular racing games though. You also had Beetlebug Adventure Racing, which I know that sounds like a joke, but I remembered loving playing this game when I was younger. It had amazing tracks, and I mean you could drive as a Beetlebug through a freaking volcano. And if you were the weird kid who sat at the front of the bus, there was Diddy Kong Racing, which was another multiplayer racer for the system, although it definitely was more single-player oriented, since it had a whole campaign mode. Also, have you ever heard of Pokemon? Because we had one of those on the N64. Kind of. Pokemon Stadium was such a cool idea for a multiplayer N64 game. Just transfer your Pokemon from the Game Boy and just watch them fight on the big screen. And you could play through the entirety of Pokemon Red and Blue on the game too. Also, you're probably thinking of it by now, wondering how I haven't mentioned it yet. But of course, the N64 was home to one of the best multiplayer games of all time. Pokemon Stadium 2. Super Smash Bros. The start of an amazing series that would go on to be loved by everyone, except for the people who made it. 4-player versus matches, but instead of just getting your opponents to 0 health, just get them to a high percent and try and knock them out of bounds. It was such an interesting idea for a fighter, and it invented a whole new subgenre called platform fighters. It's easy to see why this game did well, especially when it had items, multiple stages, a cast of iconic Nintendo characters, and Pikachu being ungodly powerful at high play. It's easy to see why this game was so much fun, and it's one of the best multiplayer game series of all time. Oh, and I guess the N64 also started the Mario Party. A party that's been going on for 22 years. Honestly, this was the start of one of the best party series of all time, and the N64 had 3 of them. They all had unique boards, minigames, and were a blast to play with friends. Sure, you're better treating the newer ones like the Plague, but the first 3 on the N64 are still fun to play. That's about it though for multiplayer gaming before 9/11. Technically, the PS2 had also launched in March of 2000, but it also had Cue Ball Billiards Masters, so I'll need a bit more time to go in depth on the multiplayer for PS2. Hopefully I didn't waste too much of your time there, but you kind of have to admit, looking at multiplayer gaming before 9/11 was pretty freaking interesting.
Yeah, I'll be honest, you kind of lost me after 2 controller slots.
That was literally one of the first things I said.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I've never really been a big fan of multiplayer games. It seemed like they're trying too hard to be a Pong clone.
Weren't you a professional Smash player?
Yeah, but then I realized how much of a Pong clone it really is.
That is kind of true.
Well, anyways, I'll see you later, Ghost. We're gonna get back to our dinner date here. Oh, what is that, Danny? Your food's getting cold. Here, let's go see if Hooters is still open.
Well then, that was a fever dream of a conversation. I guess I should go ahead and see who I'm supposed to talk to next, because I kind of want to get this over with. Okay, says right here that they're a speedrunner. Luckily for me, I know a thing or two about speedrunners. They're the people who helped out with the Louisiana Purchase, so if things ever get awkward, that'll make for a good talking point. Never mind, that was France. I always get those two confused.
Oh, dude, I think this is finally it. I think this is finally the run. I think... Oh, dude, I'm so close to the end. I think this is finally the run. No! No, I just misclicked. Oh, God. Another run, another failed attempt at world record in Garfield's scary scavenger hunt, any percent warpless on Christmas Eve. I can't catch a break. Who's this? Do I know you?
Have you ever played Lucio Ball on the Switch?
Is that a trick question?
I don't think so.
No, I haven't.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I have no idea who you are either.
Then why are you calling me?
No. What's wrong, Canada? Dead Space Mobile. Oh yeah, so whatever you do, don't play Dead Space Mobile.
Whoa, what the are you talking about? Tomorrow's Christmas, and everybody knows you can't have Christmas without Dead Space Mobile.
Ooh, that is kind of a good point. I guess you could always play Resident Evil 4 Mobile, there's Devil May Cry 4 Mobile, Bioshock Mobile.
Wait, Bioshock Mobile? I know we just met, but do you really think that little of me?
Yeah, that's my bad. But hear me out on this. How about you record me talking about the current state of multiplayer gaming and then just listen to it on loop tomorrow?
Well, I'm more of a fan of the future of multiplayer gaming, but yeah, what the hell, I guess I can give that a try.
You see, you might think that the current state of multiplayer gaming starts right now, current year, but you'd actually have to be a freaking idiot to think that. The current state of multiplayer gaming actually started 37 years ago, all the way back in 1983, when the internet was first invented by Paul Internet, who wanted a quick and easy way to look at feet pics.
Is that true?
I don't know, I'm literally just making this up as they go. So, with the internet being made in 1983, a whole 6 years later in 1989, it would actually be worth caring about with the invention of IP multicast, which means that gaming from across the internet was actually possible. Online multiplayer gaming had sorta kinda existed before, but it was questionable at best because they were only demos or wasn't available to the public. But in 1993, we would get our first look at modern online gaming as we know it today with Doom. You could have death matches with your friends through the internet, and this would pave the way for racially insensitive preteens to call each other slurs on Xbox Live. Of course, before we get there, we have to look at the 6th generation of video game consoles, the Xbox, PS2, and Gamecube. In a sense, these were a lot like the 3rd generation of video game consoles with the NES and nothing else, because before the 6th generation of consoles, I don't care enough to talk about anything that can play Echo the Dolphin. It's just too much for me. And what I meant by that was, similar to the NES being the real start of local multiplayer gaming, these consoles were the start of real online gaming. I mean, sure, the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox had local multiplayer games, the same way the NES had multiplayer games, but it was the start of multiplayer gaming as we know it today. The PlayStation 2 was actually the first of the 3 to get online, but it didn't have an official name. A lot of people just called it PS2 Network Play. It worked though, and it allowed you to play online games with friends, whether it be Star Wars Battlefront, Call of Duty, or even Burnout 3, which had such a solid online mode where you could do normal races, and even variants of Road Rage and Crash mode. There are obviously more online games than those 3, but if I named them all, it would take all day. Of course, not all PlayStation 2s were created equal. All of the non-slim models of the PS2 just couldn't do online, which just goes to show how recent of a concept online play was for consoles back then. But to get around the issue of early PS2s not having online, Sony made a network adapter for those consoles to use. You see, the compartment in the back wasn't just for storing crayons, it was also how you were able to play online. The network adapter wasn't even the only thing you needed though, you also needed a network startup disk to work, and before you ask, yes, I tried Epic Mickey on the Wii, and no, it didn't work as a replacement. Sony actually updated the network startup disk as time went on too, eventually getting up to the network startup disk 5.0. Of course, some games like Resident Evil Outbreak just worked without the network startup disk and had all the stuff built inside, but it's honestly really cool to see just how hard Sony tried to get online working on this thing. And keep in mind, this is the best-selling console of all time, so obviously back then, online didn't really matter to people as much as it does now. Also, interestingly enough, for online play, instead of having actual servers for it, PlayStation just decided to be cheap fricks and made the game companies pay for it, so they all just ran on third-party servers. Back then, I guess that makes sense, but could you imagine if a console nowadays had online and didn't have dedicated servers for games, especially first-party ones? I mean, that would be so embarrassing. Anyways, completely off topic, let's talk about Nintendo. Nintendo's main focus with the GameCube was for some good old-fashioned couch co-op. I mean, did you really expect Nintendo to understand how to do online all the way back in 2001? It's 2020 and they can still barely do it. That's not to say no games had online play, but I can write down all the games on one hand. Okay, you got me this time, Reggie. Only 3 games ended up having online multiplayer in North America, and they all start with Phantasy Star Online. Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 Plus, and Phantasy Star Online Episode 3, Card Revolution. Only Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 and Phantasy Star Online Episode 3, Card Revolution got worldwide releases, so if you enjoyed Phantasy Star Online, you were in luck. But if you enjoyed literally anything else, you might want to head over to Japan as soon as possible. They had 2 whole more games than everyone else, being Homeland and Jiko Powerful Pro Yaku 10. And that is one thing Japan will always have over everywhere else in the world. And of course, Nintendo themselves never put out an online game, and just like the PS2, you needed an add-on, this time being the broadband adapter, which was made by a third-party company called Connextant. Nintendo really just wasn't too into the idea of doing online play at the time. They didn't really see it as the future of gaming, and they also didn't think they could make it profitable, seeing it as not a sustainable business model because they didn't want to do subscription services, saying they thought if you did a subscription to do online, you wouldn't be able to keep a steady customer base. They said as Microsoft introduced Xbox Live and pioneered the way for online gaming and went to outsell the Gamecube, the Xbox was the king of online gaming. The PS2 and Gamecube just weren't meant for it. When designing the original Xbox, it was made with online gaming in mind and was the first console to do so. If you don't count the Sega Dreamcast, which was made with online gaming in mind and had SegaNet. Unfortunately, the Sega Dreamcast sold like 2 copies, so good luck playing online with anyone. Basically, Microsoft wanted to do online but just do everything better than Sega. So, they gave it broadband internet, no more dial-up, which means if the police call your house's landline to inform you your brother was found dead, it's fine, you can keep on gaming. They also gave the Xbox a hard disk drive, meaning it could easily download a lot of content, like DLC and updates faster, and would even allow for voice communication through the internet. No more sending carrier pigeons while playing Quake. This is the future of multiplayer gaming right here. I mean the current state of multiplayer gaming. And on top of all that, no more asking your parents to buy you an add-on to your console so you can play Delta Force Black Hawk Down Team Saber, because the Xbox had an Ethernet port built in. Then, with the console launching in 2001, they said that the unnamed online service would be out by summer 2002. It ended up getting delayed by a bit, but at E3 2002, they showed off their new service called Xbox Live. At the event, Microsoft showed off that it would have a friends list, voice chats, and by 2003, there would be 50 online games available. This is where we got a lot of our modern online gaming from, and you see it a lot in the 7th generation of consoles with not you though. 4 years after Xbox Live, and Nintendo still didn't really understand online multiplayer. Don't get me wrong, the Wii still had a decent amount of games that supported it, but it also lacked party chat, a good messaging system, and friends. Well, okay. This wasn't entirely true. You could be friends with people on the Wii, but it was hidden behind a cheat code of a menu. You had to go to the message board, and then select the create a message option. From there, you needed to click the address book and you'd get your friend code for the system, which you could then give to friends. Then your friend needed to get your friend code, go back to the hidden address book, click the plus button, and then you can add them as a friend and enter a nickname for them. But what's the point of that when there's a lack of multiplayer games and no party chats? Also, that's just way more complicated than it needs to be. Why is it so hidden? Was I the only one who didn't know this was a thing? Were all my friends just adding each other on the Wii's behind their back? And if so, why exactly? It's not like they could do much anyways. Either way, there were only around 50 games in total that allowed you to play with friends, not counting WiiWare games, but none of them started with Phantasy Star Online, so now I don't even see the point. In fact, one of them was Call of Duty Black Ops on the Wii, so now I see even less of a point. I get that around 50 titles might seem like a lot of online multiplayer games, but when compared to something like the Xbox 360, it was nothing. Heck, the original Xbox had more than the Wii did. Also, you might have noticed, other than an awful friend system that next to no one knew existed, which I guess would explain the max count of 20 friends, there was no built-in talking for online games. The Gamecube answered this with a controller that even God himself fears, and the Wii gave up and introduced the most pitiful excuse for a microphone I've ever seen. The Wii Speak was sold separately, and I'm assuming most Wii owners didn't even know this thing existed, because I sure didn't. It was announced at E3 2008, shown off with functionality with Animal Crossing City Folk, but just wasn't bundled with it, because not all City Folks will use Wii Speak, and not all Wii Speak owners will play City Folk. What other games were Wii Speak fans going to play, Reggie? Freaking Jeopardy? I feel like if it had been bundled, more people would have learned what the fricka Wii Speak was. Honestly though, there still were some solid multiplayer experiences on the Wii, mainly Mario Kart Wii. That's the end of that sentence. Super Smash Bros. Brawl had online, but I mean it was Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And it was a Nintendo Online game back in 2008. Both of those things aren't good. Those weren't the only 2 fun online games though. If you had a Wii and you really wanted to play some online games, there was always Red Steel, GoldenEye, and Conduit, but not as many people knew about those. Let's be honest, if you really want to do online multiplayer, you weren't buying a Wii to do it. Hopefully. If you really want online multiplayer, you went for the Xbox 360 or the PS3. They both had so many online multiplayer games, and they were more or less the same in terms of how they worked. Technically, you didn't have to pay for online on the PS3 like you did the Xbox 360, but that's one of the only differences other than console exclusive games. They were both good online multiplayer gaming experiences. There were party chats so you could talk to your friends about how you did their mom, messages so you could trash talk whoever killed you in Call of Duty knowing you didn't want to invite them to a party because you were too much of a squeaker, and just online connectivity. There really isn't much of a difference between the online for the Xbox 360 and Xbox One even. They both use Xbox Live, have party chats, messages, and online games you can play with your friends. Likewise, from the PS3 to PS4, most stayed the same, but now you have to fork over your gamer bucks to play the newest FIFA online. But unlike PS3 and PS4 and Xbox 360 and Xbox One online pretty much being the same, just allowing you to easily connect to people and play online gaming with people from around the world, Nintendo was still trying to catch up to the original Xbox. You had the Wii U released in 2012 just trying its hardest. You did have online that worked decently well for a lot of games, whether that was Splatoon or Super Smash Bros, but they still messed up. They were still using friend codes, unlike Xbox and PlayStation who had you create PlayStation and Microsoft accounts and just add people by username. It also had no party chat. There was a FaceTime app, but you couldn't use it while gaming, so there's no point in talking about it since, I'm talking about the current state of multiplayer gaming. As well, there wasn't really an easy way to message people. You had to do it through Miiverse, and that's a huge can of worms that I'm not ready to open. Finally though, we have the Switch. And would you believe it if I said Nintendo still didn't get how to do online multiplayer all these years later? We still have friend codes. Also, now we're paying for online, $20 a year to be exact, and Nintendo still isn't bothering to hold servers for Smash Bros, one of the biggest online games. And if you want to talk to the people you're playing with, you have to download a freaking mobile app, although it doesn't really work because no one is using it. Nintendo really doesn't get multiplayer gaming through online. Like I said, they have bad or no servers for games, friend codes making it harder to add your friends than it needs to be, and no party chats to talk to your friends with or messaging systems to tell your friends to join you in Fortnite. But one place that Nintendo does succeed is screwing over their fans, I mean couch co-op. Back in the 6th generation of consoles, when everyone was busy plugging an Ethernet port into the back of the PlayStation 2 to play some Hot Wheels Stunt Track Challenge, Nintendo was busy being the king of local multiplayer. They continued on with Mario Party with some of their best ones yet with 4, 5, 6, and 7. They also introduced a sequel to Smash Bros. With Super Smash Bros. Melee for some really fun multiplayer with friends, and also a competitive scene like no other. And how could I forget Double Dash, the most unique Mario Kart game in the series, where you and a friend can control the same freaking vehicle, or you can just play separately and race against each other. There were more racing games too, like Kirby Air Ride or F-Zero, and there was a freaking multiplayer Zelda game, The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventure, where you could play through an entire Legend of Zelda game with 4 people, and at the same time, be competing to get the highest score. It's so much fun single player, and I'd imagine it's even better multiplayer. Also, the Gamecube had the best of the Mario sports games. There was Power Tennis, Super Strikers, Toadstool Tour, and Superstar Baseball. The Gamecube, just like all of Nintendo's consoles, had amazing multiplayer experiences, as long as they weren't online. The best part about Nintendo's multiplayer games after the Gamecube, though, is that they really used the gimmicks of that console. I mean, to be fair, they couldn't do much with the Gamecube. I mean, the only gimmick that had was a weird-shaped controller and triggers that could be pushed down differently. And you can't really make a Wii play out of that. On future consoles, though, you had games like Wii Sports Resort, Mario Kart Wii, Wii Play, Wii Party, Nintendo Land, Mario Party 8, Game & Wario, Mario Strikers, and Mario Power Tennis again, but with motion controls. These were games that just couldn't exist elsewhere and provided some of the best multiplayer gaming experiences I've had with my friends and family. Even ones that didn't heavily rely on gimmicks were still so much fun. We had Nintendo bring the single-player Mario franchise all the way up to simultaneous 4-player with New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and the same thing happened again with New Super Mario Bros. Wii U, and then they perfected it with Super Mario 3D World. Even Donkey Kong got real multiplayer, and Smash was as fun as ever. Okay, not really, but it was still Smash, so it was fun. In Smash's defense though, they did add an amazing addition with Wii U, where they added 8-player Smash, and I've heard people say this is too hectic, but I'm gonna call BS on that. I'm pretty sure most of the people complaining don't even have 8 friends, because 8-player Smash is genuinely such a fun experience, and when you have all your friends over, it's the perfect game to play, because you don't even need to be good to win 8-player Smash. Plus, it's one of the few games that actually allows 8 players on couch co-op. And thank God they kept it on the Switch, because with the Switch, Nintendo cemented themselves further as believing in a local multiplayer experience. Ignoring all the amazing multiplayer games, the Switch itself is proof of this. It can be put up on a kickstand and you can play local multiplayer games anywhere. Funerals have never been this much fun. And it's not just funerals either. That means if you brought your Switch to school so you could not pay attention in driver's ed, and then next hour the football coach was your sub and had no lesson plans, just have a Smash tournament with all your friends in that class. I mean, the freaking football coach isn't gonna care if you're playing Smash Bros instead of doing your homework. I mean, he's too busy watching replays of his players getting concussions. Or maybe it's the final day before spring break and your teacher loves Super Smash Bros, so you already know he'll let you break the no electronics policy of your school once everyone is done taking your test. So, you bring 2 extra sets of Joy-Cons, and uh-oh, now you have 4 controllers, and since you can just put up the kickstand, you can have 4 people gather around you and you can all play Smash on some crazy custom stages with random characters. Even besides Smash, I had to go on a field trip with a really long bus ride, and Adam and I just played Cuphead the whole way there, and when we weren't sitting next to each other on the way back, we just had Rowdy freaking hold up the Switch. Even without the games, the Nintendo Switch was really great at local multiplayer, but I mean, combine that with some amazing games in online that can't even run Connect 4, and you've got a great incentive to play local multiplayer. Once again, you have Mario Kart and Smash for some classic multiplayer fun. There's so much 4-player Mario with New Super Mario Bros. U, again, Super Mario 3D World, again, and Super Mario Maker 2, which was basically Mario Maker, but again. There's even a not bad Mario Party in a collection of public domain games Nintendo sold for $50 that's actually a lot of fun for local play. There's even the first 2-player local actual sort of Pokemon game with Pokemon Pikachu and Eevee. Also, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze? It really doesn't have anything to do with Pokemon, I just needed to put that in there somewhere. Of course, it's not like Nintendo was the only one who's releasing good local multiplayer games. On other systems, you had the Halo games, Call of Duty Zombies, the Borderlands series, Left 4 Dead, Minecraft, Rayman Legends, and Portal 2, and some of those were even on Nintendo systems. The bad thing is though, those were the only local multiplayer games I could think of. It's easy to see why people go to Nintendo for local multiplayer fun. Also, it's not like Xbox and PlayStation are useless. I mean, why else would they be at Taco Bell? Plus, Xbox and PlayStation have amazing online games to make up for that. Call of Duty, Gears of War for Xbox, Sea of Thieves for Xbox, Halo for Xbox, Rocket League, and Fortnite. Sure, some of these play on the Switch, but they work best on a console with online multiplayer that actually works. And finally, I know I'm talking about the current state of multiplayer gaming, and I just never mentioned LAN parties, which were a big part of multiplayer gaming. I mean, it allowed for 16-player Mario Kart Double Dash, but I kinda feel like it's not as relevant anymore, and it was only around for a few years back in the Xbox and early 360 era. Anyways, online gaming is definitely a lot more popular right now than it's ever been, and it's easy to see why. It's a lot easier for me to go tell Adam to get on Rocket League than it is for him to come over to my house and play it there. Although, it does kinda stink to see AAA multiplayer games come out and not include local multiplayer options. Literally, Cold War launched without split-screen zombies, and that kinda shows the current state of multiplayer gaming. Also, when I can only name 8 good local multiplayer games made by big developers in the past decade, that's really worrying. I don't necessarily think we'll ever go to a fully online multiplayer experience, but good local multiplayer games are becoming less and less common. And with all that, it's interesting to see what's in store for the future of multiplayer gaming.
Whoa, are you really gonna leave me on a cliffhanger like that? I mean, what happens next?
I'm sorry, but I gotta get going. I still have one more person left that I need to talk to. And unless your favorite pastime is talking about I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, a 2007 film by Adam Sandler in which he marries Kevin James that grossed over $180 million in the box office, I think you're the wrong person.
I mean, I think that's a pretty vague description. I know at least 9 people off the top of my head that do that.
I mean, there's a reason they call it America's favorite pastime.
You're right about that. Well, if we're done here, I'm gonna go off and play some Dead Space Mobile.
Wait, no! Well, I mean, I somewhat tried to warn him. Hopefully that ghost guy won't be too mad, but I doubt anything bad will come from playing Dead Space Mobile anyways, and really, the ghost shouldn't have trusted me to do something if it was that important, so it's kind of his fault. Anyways, I should probably wrap this up. I'm getting kind of tired, and I only have one person left, so I get I should try to do something special for it, but I gotta be honest, I just kind of want to get this over with by now. What's this guy's deal? Why isn't he picking up a call from someone who he doesn't know? What an idiot. I guess not everyone has time to hear me talk about multiplayer gaming, but they should. And I guess there was also the thing that the ghost told me to tell him, but it's not like that was important. Let's see what it was. I was going to tell him that he was going to die tomorrow. Oh god. I guess I'll just message him that on Discord. Ooh, and as compensation, I can just record myself talking about the future of multiplayer gaming. You know, if I was going to die, I would want someone to tell me about the future of multiplayer gaming lies in Untitled Goose Game. The future of multiplayer gaming is really weird. Because right now we're at an interesting state in the games industry where a lot of the big developers don't care about making couch co-op games anymore. I can't name many games that came out by a big studio in 2020 that featured couch co-op that weren't from a company called Nintendo. You had Ghost of Tsushima, Flight Simulator, Genshin Impact, Demon Souls, Star Wars Squadrons, and Doom Eternal, all with online play, and the games that had local multiplayer, Tony Hawk, Minecraft Dungeons, and Cold War, weren't necessarily built around split screen, it's just kinda there. I will say props to Sony with Sackboy though, because that does have a local multiplayer mode, and from what I've seen it's a lot of fun, but still, most of the games this year that had multiplayer opted for online, and most of the ones with local multiplayer had a main focus on online like Cold War, or the multiplayer was just a side thing like in Tony Hawk. Like I said, most big studios nowadays just don't care about making a big local multiplayer experience, except for Nintendo. People consider 2020 to be a rough year for Nintendo game output wise, but they still made couch co-op a priority with the games they published, like Animal Crossing New Horizons, a UFO game no one likes, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Mario Kart Tour, Clubhouse Games, Good Job, Kirby Fighters 2, and their port Pikmin 3 Deluxe originally was a single player game, but with the port they changed it so the whole game can be played through multiplayer. The only non-multiplayer games they didn't publish this year was a fitness game, a port, a Paper Mario game, and 3 RPGs. And I think that as more and more game companies move towards only having online play in their games, Nintendo will still be there with a genuinely fun local multiplayer experiences. Of course, I have been intentionally not mentioning a huge part of the game development scene, and that's the indie developers. They're kind of the lifeblood of the gaming industry nowadays. They bring some of the most unique games to the scene and make some amazing couch co-op games. Even if Nintendo somehow goes fully online for multiplayer, which they can't even figure out how to do it in 2020, so I kinda doubt that, indie devs will still be making what they're passionate about, and a lot of the time that's a fun local multiplayer experience. Genuinely, so many of the best local co-op games of late have been indie. First off, you have Jackbox Games Inc., Charles Darwin's last gift to humanity. They're famous for having a name that really doesn't help build suspense on what game series they make, and also for making the Jackbox series. You might argue that these aren't couch co-op games, but I mean, that's literally what they were made for. Plus, some of the games can't even be played through streams. Regardless though, the Jackbox games are amazing. As of right now, there are 7 of them, and they all feature some really fun games that you would actually play with friends and family at a party. Heck, when my family has had some family friends over, we've played Jackbox with them before and had a blast, because they're so easy to understand, unlike a lot of co-op games. And one of the things that helps with this is you don't even play them with a controller either, you play them with your phone, meaning lack of controllers isn't an issue. Controllers are arguably a big block to playing local multiplayer because as time goes on, game companies are shoving more and more tech into a controller to the point where I'm paying $80 for a pair of controllers I'm pretty sure I could swallow. Even the PlayStation 5 controller is $70, and the cheapest option for new controllers out of next gen is $60, which is still the price of a AAA game. Of course, not all indie games use phones as the controller, although I'm pretty sure you weren't thinking that. But just in case you needed proof, take a look at Behemoth Studios with their amazing multiplayer games like Battle Block Theater and Castle Crashers, 2 full multiplayer experiences that are some of the best in the industry. Also, there are some great standalone multiplayer titles that aren't made by some indie studio who really likes multiplayer games. There's Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime, an amazing multiplayer space shooter where you and your friends control a spaceship together, each controlling different parts. And on top of that, you have randomized level layouts leading to an infinitely replayable experience, simple controls, and a bunch of fun upgrades. Also, Untitled Goose Game got an update recently where you can play through the entire game in 2 players, and it works so perfectly, it honestly feels like the game was always meant to be played this way. To wrap it up though, there's Terraria, Enter the Gungeon, the Overcooked games, Cuphead, and just way more. And if this seemed like an excuse for me to just talk about some amazing multiplayer indie games you should go and play, I mean, you're right, that's exactly what it was, but it's also proof that no matter what happens to the future of gaming, couch co-op games will always be around because of the passion behind indie developers. And it's not even like there's nothing in store for the future of online gaming. Cross-platform play is becoming more and more popular, to the point where it's surprising if you have an online game that doesn't have it. Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege. Even online indie games like Among Us have crossplay. And it's not even like it's some new concept either. The first game to actually have cross-platform was all the way back on the PS2 with Final Fantasy XI having crossplay with PC. And as the years go on, I wouldn't be surprised if more games start adapting cross-platform play. Call of Duty started doing it, same with Fortnite, Rocket League, Minecraft, and more. Not every game is doing it, but like I said, with the future of multiplayer gaming, it really seems like we're gonna get less and less couch co-op games from the big AAA studios, except for Nintendo, and a lot more from the indie studios. But those big AAA studios making multiplayer games, expect to see a lot more crossplay from them, which is honestly a good thing. They both have their place in the games industry, and heck, indie games are cheaper and are often more original than big AAA titles anyways. I'll just need to send all that over to him tomorrow morning because, I mean, if I was gonna die, I'd want to hear about how much fun Castle Crashers is. And, weirdly enough, I guess that ends my night. I'm honestly kind of worn out, so I'm kind of glad that I'm done, but it is kind of weird. I wonder who that could be. I mean, it's 11 PM on Christmas Eve. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably either Mario from Mario, thanking me for promoting his upcoming game, Super Mario 3D World, Bowser's Fury, or it's the IRS. But, I mean, there's only one way to find out. I wonder who sent me this. Well, it says it's from the Christmas, but gotta be honest, I don't think I know anyone named that, but it is addressed to me, so I guess I should go ahead and open it up. Holy frick! It's headphones! These are even better than the ones I have now. That's awesome. It looks like there was even a note. Wonder if it'll say who it's from. Dear Eric Derek, if you are reading this, I have no idea of how good of a job you did, but I will soon. And if you messed up, I will be coming for you. Merry Christmas. Love, the Christmas Ghost. He remembers me. Although, that's also kind of concerning, but I do think I did a good job. Except on the last one. And also maybe the first one. Kind of messed up on the second one too, but at least I learned the true meaning of Christmas along the way. See? Frick, that's just me being #1 in the world for Lucio Ball.